Coming up, we all know that your time is valuable when you go to Walt Disney World, and sometimes there are attractions you are going to miss. It may stress you out. We're going to ease some of that stress and some of those fears by identifying the 7 worst rides at all of Walt Disney World. We've got plenty of reasons: outdated, bad ride queues, motion sickness, all of the things that make these 7 rides worth skipping. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end because you might be surprised on what makes the list. Wanted to let you know we had some microphone and other technical difficulties while recording this that unfortunately we just didn't hear until after we were finished. And we decided after listening back this episode, it's too good, it's too fun not to release and let you hear and be a part of the conversation. So again, apologies, things aren't going to quite sound the same as they always do, but the content is there. We hope you love and enjoy it. And thanks so much for tuning in and being understanding. No, the rebuttal to what you said, Stacy, is that what category does it fall in with what other rides?
It's a preschool ride.
It
is the most awesome, exciting preschool ride you could ever have.
Hey y'all, it's LJ here, owner and founder of Smart Moms Plan Disney and Smart Moms Travel. We are so glad you're here for another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. Now, here's your host, Allie.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. I am your host, Allie. I'm here today with Stacy and Katie, and it's going to be such a fun one today. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How are y'all?
I am so excited for this episode today. This is going to be so fun.
I know. Here's the thing. Everybody knows I love Disney. I love talking Disney. Obviously, we do it every single week here on the show. I like to talk about the things that are less than perfect at Disney. Not everything is going to knock it out of the park. Not everything is going to be amazing. And today, we're going to shine a light on a couple of rides that we feel like missed the mark. And if you don't have all of the time in the world, well, let's be real. Nobody has all of the time in the world to do every single thing at Disney World. It's never going to happen in a single trip unless you have a 2-week trip planned and you're doing park open to park close every single day. You're not going to do it all. So knowing that our listeners have limited time in the parks, we are going to find the 7 rides that we think are the worst at Disney World, that we think if you are limited in your time, skip these rides, skip these attractions, don't bother. It's not going to make your time less than. But I got to thinking about it, and this is opinion-based or fact-based. We're going to kind of figure out, right? We've ridden all these, and even though some of it is formulated off of our opinions, it's also rooted in, hey, we've seen what Disney can do, and this is not it. And I was thinking about how we talk all the time about Skyline Chili here in Cincinnati, right? And how I just love it so much. And I would say, this is a top food that you must try. And you all would say, that is a bottom food that you should absolutely skip. And then I got nervous.
I have tried it.
Yeah. You have tried it because I held you down and shoved it.
Yes.
But
oh my goodness.
But it started to make me nervous because I have these strong opinions that I feel are rooted in some truth and fact. And I'm worried that you all are going to skyline me and say that, a ride is better than I may think it is. And I was thinking, what are your, red flags in your life that you're like, no, this is great and nobody's going to tell me otherwise?
I feel like in society, just us being quote unquote Disney adults, we kind of feel it all the time, don't we? So, because I feel like that is what is it that I do or talk about too much that is like, okay, red flag. It would definitely be how much I talk about Disney World or how often I go.
And let me tell you something about that. The Disney adult commentary is not new and it is not fresh, okay? We understand that the take on the Disney adult is it's, a weird thing or whatever. First of all, if you're an adult and you don't like going to Oga's Cantina with your buddies and having a fuzzy tauntaun, that is fun. If you don't like going to Trader Sam's with adults and not having your kids, you can't even go to Trader Sam's with your kids in tow after a certain hour. I love taking my kids to Disney, but if I can go to the Be Our Guest lounge without them, I'm going to pick that over taking them with me.
Do you mean Enchanted Rose? You mean Enchanted Rose?
I mean Enchanted Rose. I'm just saying that whether your kids are there or not, it can be super magical and fun. And there is a whole secret Disney world that the people that are judging the Disney adults, they don't know about it. And you know what? That's fine. Let's keep them in the dark about it.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm sure that I do have food red flags or something like that, but I have what I call the food sads. You know how like people get hangry whenever you're hungry and you just gotta eat something? I have had the food sads for going on 3 years now because back home in Western Pennsylvania, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to go to my favorite mom and pop pizza place that put like steak and fries on the pizza. I wanted to go and have pierogies made from the ladies doing the fundraiser at the firehouse, right? That's what I want. I want really good comfort food, and Pittsburgh is just so great for that. But I have had the food sads for all this time.
Yeah, all of our red flags have to do with food.
Because we're so perfectly normal otherwise.
Yeah, we're not quirky in any other way.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
You know that thing people used to say, you'd be like, she's a 10, but, you know, whatever. For me, it'd be like, she's a 10, but she eats chili on her spaghetti.
Yep.
Which is perfect for me. I love it. So I'm excited because clearly I would never talk y'all into leaving my favorite food off of a bottom foods list. So I'm looking forward to the conversation regarding these rides today. And I think it's going to give great perspective. Our Smarties, one of the things people say all the time, our regular listeners, is they love the different perspectives and the different ways that we look at things. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what rides made my list that maybe didn't make yours and seeing which ones cross and how we can convert each other into agreeing that mine should be on the bottom list. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk through the worst rides and attractions at Walt Disney World, talk exactly about what an attraction or a ride is at Walt Disney World, and come up with a list of things you can avoid once you are there.
Hey, wait. I know you're ready to get back to the podcast, but I've got something very simple for you to do. Join my Facebook group, Disney Planning Made Simple. I'm Stacy, one of your podcast hosts, and I have a sweet, friendly Facebook group made for those of us who thrive in the simple pleasures of life, things like family, food, and Disney. Join at facebook.com/groups/Disney Made Simple or follow with the link in the show notes. We'll be so happy to see you there.
Hey there, friends. I'm Katie Boone, one of your podcast co-hosts. I'd love to invite you to join my Facebook Disney planning community called Planning Disney with Babies, Toddlers, and Preschoolers. In my group, I love discussing all the aspects of planning your magical vacation with little ones. Find my community at facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. When you join, don't forget to tell me you heard about my group on the podcast. See you there.
All right, this is going to be so fun. I love getting different opinions and perspectives here. And we talk all the time about some of our favorites, and we talk a little bit about some of our not favorites, but I really don't know what's going to be on your lists here in the bottom. Before we dig in, here's the way this is going to work. A ride, which is what we are specifically talking about today, has to be something where your seat moves. So if you sit down for the experience and you move from the point you started, even if you ended the same place, you must move from start to finish. That is how we are classifying a ride and how we differentiate it between any other experience or attraction at Walt Disney World. We are going to take turns giving one of the rides off of our lists, debating whether or not we agree it should be on the 7 list. If we know for sure we all agree and this ride, deserves a place on the list, we'll go ahead and put it there. If we're not sure what's to come and it may or may not be a bottom 7, we're going to put it in the standby queue, and then we will revisit those at the end so we come up with our top 7 list. You're going to want to stay here to the very end to find out what are the bottom 7 rides at Walt Disney World. I want Stacy to start.
There should be less pressure, but I automatically jump into this Fantasyland draft mode, right? I feel like this is some sort of competition that I have to win to convince you. So I try to pick the right order. All right, let me start with, I think, one pretty simple that we'll agree on. We can all be very thankful Becky is not on this one to argue, because I believe the 3 of us will agree that Mission Space should be on this list of worst rides. It is the only ride at Disney World that is continuously warning you do not get on this ride if you have any type of motion sickness. Do not get on this ride. This may cause motion sickness. Not only is the risk of motion sickness there, the ride, okay, there are some cool factors to it in that it's the idea of you're going into space and you have that gravity feeling, but it is a very claustrophobic ride. I don't know. It's just terrible. Honestly, it's terrible. And I feel like I have you ladies on board for this. Am I right in my assumptions?
It's absolutely on my list. I did say Mission Space Orange specifically because that is the bad one. This checks every box that you would need it to say this is why this ride is bad. It is, as you said, a tight space. You cannot get out of it. You cannot move. It is the ride. I've said this before. It is the ride that says, don't ride me. The longer you wait in the queue, the more it says, seriously, what are you thinking? Don't ride. Like, turn around. You're going
We're
to
not
get
kidding.
sick. Yeah, we're not kidding. Like, if you continue, you're going to get sick. The adult that can handle this ride, because I've noticed that as I've gotten older, as I've become an adult, my stomach gets weaker. And it makes me so sad, right? Because we just rode Rock and Roller Coaster together, and I'm not anywhere close to not being able to ride that. But for the first time, I was a twinge of uncomfortable. And that's never happened to me. And I noticed a little bit more every time I go to Disney. And I'm like, oh man, this stinks. This is terrible. Mission Space Orange, I don't know any adults that can weather that storm. It is a no. It is so hard on your stomach. It is so hard on your eyes. It is so hard on your well-being. You can't close your eyes to get out of it. You can't, I do the deep exhale when my stomach starts to get really uncomfortable on rides. You can't even do that. I close my eyes and do the exhale. This would have the reverse effect on that ride. It's not the one. It's a no for me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you as well. My kids love Mission Space Green, and we spam it. And they love to play in the playground after Mission Space. But Mission Space Orange is probably the single worst ride at Disney World. It's the only one that they actually have barf bags ready for you inside the ride. Oh, they know that you're going to have a hard time on it. I am not someone who is prone to motion sickness. I am not someone who is prone to feeling claustrophobic. And I felt instant panic as soon as they shut the door. I was like, oh boy. And then, like you said, Allie, like, you can't close your eyes. They tell you you have to look at the screen or it will be worse for you. And so you're like, I just have to weather through. Man, that's a one and done.
I think it's important that we say orange is the one going on the list because green is its own category. And if you really want any sort of space experience and you don't want to have your whole day ruined, go on green and it's fine. I wouldn't call it a great ride, but I would call it fine. Mission Space Orange is on the list.
For sure.
All right. I have one I don't know if it's going to be controversial or not. I don't think it should be controversial, but I honestly don't know where you all stand with it. And we've never ridden it together. I think one of the worst rides at Disney is Figment, the Journey into the Imagination.
Ooh.
That is a really weird situation.
Okay.
Is that all you have to build your case? Is it's weird?
This is a weird situation, and I don't know. It's like a journey into somebody else's imagination. That is not what my imagination is like. It's a journey I really don't want to go on. I think this is a skip every time for me. I understand that Figment is allegedly the mascot of Epcot. I just feel like that purple dinosaur is pushed on us really hard.
He's a dragon.
And okay, whatever.
It's a dragon.
The purple dragon is pushed on us really hard, and I don't understand it. And this ride is really silly and it's a no for me literally every time.
Okay, I have Journey into Imagination with Figment on my list here to talk about. I also was like, I don't know if this actually makes the list of 7 worst rides at Disney. I'm not sure.
It does.
But okay, so here's why I had it as a talking point. My kids love it. It is a very little kid ride. Like, the little kids think it's great. They have the butterfly illusion. And then there's that really cool play place afterwards. Like, it's a great place for little kids. However, it definitely has not aged well. It feels very 90s kid. It doesn't quite like hit the mark the way it could for kids today. But on top of that, everyone who's a diehard Figment lover says that the original iteration of that ride was way better than the current iteration of it. So that's why I have it on the list to talk about today.
But you don't think it's a bottom set? You think that there are 6 attractions that are worse than this ride? Or 7?
I think it's in the middle, honestly, for me. Yeah.
In the middle of all rides?
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
God.
In the middle of the bottom. In the middle of the bottom.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
So you do put it on the list.
She doesn't think it's a bottom 7. She thinks it rises above at least 7 other. I'm very curious to know what the other 7 rides are going to be that beat Figment for being worse.
We'll see. What do you think, Stace?
I actually have it on my list too. I feel really terrible about putting it on my list because we do it all the time.
No.
And I do have some nostalgic, you have to do it because you have to know who Figment is. Figment would not exist without this ride. And I agree, he is, well, it did make me laugh. You said he's kind of pushed on us, which is true.
He is.
It's true.
We got
You're
like
right,
5-hour
you're right.
waits. It's like 5-hour waits for his popcorn bucket, 2-hour waits for.
It is wild.
Did you all see the video of the character meet and greet when he fell over?
Yes, bless
He couldn't
him.
get.
He's so,
I couldn't get up.
I know. And he's so sweet. Like, we went and saw him at our last little visit and had our entire family of 16 up there with a photo with him. And he was so sweet. But yeah, he's on the list. I mean, this ride is definitely on the list.
I'm kind of dying laughing at you saying that he was sweet at your character. Like, what did he do different than Mickey Mouse to make him so sweet?
It was the same things.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I mean, he could have been ugly to us. I don't know.
Okay. This is on my list, but if Katie, I'm comfortable putting it in the standby queue because I want to leave room to hear what Katie believes are worse, just so we can get all the way there and not fill it up. But it's going to be in the lightning lane. It's not even going to be in the standby queue. It's like in the lightning lane, ready to jump in our list because I can't imagine that we're going to find 7 worse. I just think you're going to ride it because if you've never been to Disney World, you're going to ride Figment because you're like, oh, Figment, that's the mascot of Epcot. And everybody always wants that popcorn bucket. And he's so popular. This ride must be incredible. And you're going to get on and you're going to be like, what's happening? This is Disney? Yeah. We're at Disney World right now?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's the ride that you get on and laugh at it, enjoy it, ironically. At least that's my family. We tend to do that. We tend to find rides that we enjoy it because it's a little weird.
Okay. Well, you're a regular and you've ridden everything, so you can do that. But if you're a first-time family, you're going to get on and be mad that you wasted any of your precious park time doing something that you laugh at because it's weird. Okay. Katie, give us one that's worse.
Okay. I'm going to skip one because I think that you will probably both talk about it. But another one that's higher on my list than Journey into Imagination with Figment is the Wildlife Express train at Animal Kingdom. Because I don't feel like that even qualifies as a ride. It's good for a form of transportation to get from, the Africa section of Animal Kingdom to the Affection Station, like Rafiki's Planet Watch. But as a ride, no.
Okay. I don't think this gets to go on the list, and here's why. I think exactly what you just said is exactly right. I don't really look at this as a ride. I don't think many people look at this as a ride. I think this truly is a form of transportation, and they tried to make it more than that by giving you a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. But truly, the purpose of this train is to get from point A to point B, not to have a ride experience in your day. When I'm looking at my list, I am looking at things that intentionally were put on the park map as a ride experience. And this to me is a transportation experience. And I think that's different.
I have seen families be like, let's go ride the train. And they're not getting off at Rafiki Planet Watch.
Well, but that's when you have a family that has a train lover and is saying, hey, do you want to go ride the train, friend? And that kid probably loved the train. But they're using the train, in my opinion, as a ride when its real intention is... Like, I don't think anybody that's waiting in line to ride the train to Planet Watch is saying, let's go have a great ride experience. If they're riding it as a ride, it's probably because they have a train lover, and then that person's probably not disappointed because they love trains. Stacy?
What do you think, Stace?
I considered it when I was going through my list because it is a little odd. It is a side-facing, you're on a circle, a track, and you're only allowed to see the outside of the circle.
Because... we even said on the most recent episode, because Disney Imagineering probably kept some things you're not supposed to see behind you. So they keep your vision where it needs to be.
At air conditioning units. And I mean, it's really still not a very good view.
Yeah,
it's just, it's very boring. There's potential that they could put some things there to give it a little entertainment value as you're transporting. However, I still tend to be that it's not on the list for that reason, that it is mostly for transportation. I do not think anyone is getting on it for a ride experience. And I just think that in that case, for the purpose of what we're trying to do, the things we're saying to avoid, I would not say, oh, avoid that, it's so boring, because you might need it to go do your animation station. Like
yeah, that's kind of what I think. I'm like, if you want to ride it and not go to Rafiki's Planet Watch, and you're not trying to get to the animator experience and you're just riding it to ride it, it's probably because you have a train lover. I don't think the intention of this was ever to be a ride, so I think that there are definitely some worse experiences here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Stace, lay a new one on us.
All right, let's go controversial here, because I have mentioned this. If you are a real smarty from the very beginning, you may remember me mentioning this before, but I am going to submit for your consideration the Tomorrowland Speedway. I know that it is a classic. It has been there since my childhood. I know that little children enjoy the imagination of driving their own car. Well, it's not even imagination. They are driving their own car. However, I never let my children drive it because to me, first of all, incredibly loud. The smell of diesel or whatever, it's not diesel, I guess it's probably unleaded fuel, but the smell is strong. The time that it takes, as soon as you walk from the point of you opened up that gate, the little gate holding you back from entering the ride, to when the ride actually begins, that period of time is longer than the actual ride itself. It is just not worth your time. My humble opinion. I'm ready for the daggers. Go.
This is on my list.
Oh, yes.
This is a skip of all skips.
Travesty. No.
Do you have a mini golf course with go-karts near your house? Because the go-kart track is probably better, more exciting, and more exhilarating than what's going on at the Tomorrowland Speedway. The line queue, those stairs that you have to take down to the cars, beating blazing sun. Terrible queue for all the reasons you said, in addition to just being flat out brutally hot. They don't really go fast. It's not really a race. Like, I know it's a speedway and it's supposed to be a race. You can't really race anybody. And if I'm going to be in a race attraction, I want to race. Like, that would be fun. When I'm in go-karts, it is no holds barred. That is not what's going on at the speedway. And tell me right now what is futuristic or tomorrow-ish about the Tomorrowland Speedway. At this point, it's just taking up a ton of space. It is not futuristic. It is not fast. It is not exhilarating. It is a not do. It is a skip.
I am so happy to hear this.
I am so sad.
Why are you sad? Have you never raced go-karts?
No, listen. So let me paint the picture for you. First of all, my kids do love the Tomorrowland Speedway, and we pretty much hit it every Magic Kingdom day. Like, my kids beg to go on it. The other reason that I like it as a parent of 3 kids is it's usually me with 1 kid and my husband with the other 2 kids. And someone's unhappy because they didn't get to drive. The cool thing about this attraction is if you have 2 kids, they'll let you basically ride twice and swap who the driver is. So I love that about this ride. But yeah, the fumes, it's not futuristic. I get it. The same way that Stacy said she enjoys Figment for the irony of it, that's the experience that I have with Tomorrowland Speedway. I'm on an adults-only trip last May with a few others.
I'm going to stop you right there. If you're on an adults-only trip, you better not be on the Tomorrowland Speedway.
Listen, this is great.
No,
it is one of my favorite memories. Listen to this. We had extended evening hours at Magic Kingdom, and we were getting there late, so we only had like an hour left. And I'm with my friend Emily, and we walk in. She goes, well, what do you want to do? And everyone's kind of like congregating over towards Tomorrowland. And I was like, listen, do you know what would be the silliest thing?
Everybody's congregating to Tomorrowland to ride Tron.
Sure. except for me. So listen, so I'm like, Emily, wouldn't it be hilarious if we rode Tomorrowland Speedway together? So there's me and Emily recording a TikTok while we're driving, doing all this silly nonsense. And I said, I'm going to shout at everybody walking to Tron and be like, this is the greatest day of my life. And it really was. It was so fun to just ride that ironically as two adults and like be shouting at people. It was the greatest day of my life.
Okay, well, a couple of things. If that's the greatest day of your life, we have other things we need to discuss. Also, if you have to ride it ironically, then it certainly cannot be considered as a good ride. And this goes on the list for that story alone because of all the things you just said. This is
Fine.
This is not good. You did not convince me, and I need to take you and show you a better day.
Yes.
All right, any day you want. Let's go.
Okay. We're putting it on because it's outdated and it's slow and it smells bad. All right. I think that's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be controversial too. I feel very passionately about this one though. I'm going to say The Seas with Nemo and Friends is one of the worst rides at Walt Disney World, and here's why. I have a couple of reasons. Number one, the shells are just like the Doom buggies from Haunted Mansion in disguise. Number two, this is allegedly, I'm not a big Finding Nemo fan. It's fine. I'm not a Nemo fan, but it's definitely not in my top 5 favorite Pixar movies. But it is a lot of people's number 1 favorite Pixar movie. And for a ride that is that popular, and this attraction is connected to a full aquarium, I feel like this ride was an afterthought. It was, let's just make this Nemo and slap Nemo's name on it. So you're riding in a shell really slowly in front of a video screen for the entire ride. That's what it is.
No, you're not. No. There's not video screens through the whole thing. They have
there is.
Yes, there are.
Yes, there
There
is.
are some fish. There are some fish, and they do put like Nemo and stuff in with the fish, and that's cool. But
there's like a whole scene with like an animatronic arm where he's being chased by the anglerfish. There's way more to that attraction.
Scene.
There is a scene. There is. You're right. That scene exists, and it should be.
And I'll even continue the argument. There is a scene with the jellyfish.
Yeah.
That is also not a screen. However, it's on my list too, Allie. And we ride this a lot. We ride it as a mode of getting to the aquarium. And I'll even do a lightning lane because I will grab the lightning lane, do it really quick, and it doesn't take long to get right back off your list because the queue for it is the craziest long zigzag in one small space. It's like if you had a big open room and you said, okay, let's just walk back and forth in this room for a while. It is the tiniest space for a zigzag trail. So I really just, if I can lightning lane and do a straighter path, it's so much better. But it is so much of a screen. And it does have a little bit of a motion sickness area. When you go through what is the EAC. Australian?
What is it? EAC.
The EAC, right. I was missing the E. The EAC, and it's kind of a cool effect, but I'm going to bring up motion sickness a lot because that is one of my things. I want to make sure all of my motion sickness people know this has potential, and it's because of the screens. So I have it on my list too. We'll do it as a mode of transportation to just get to the aquarium. However, as a ride itself, it is totally skippable.
Katie is shaking her head, and here's what I will say. Hold on.
I'm kind of angry.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'll put it in the standby queue for a moment because I do think it's possible that we find 7 attractions we feel are worse. And we already have 2 on our list. So 5 more that we feel are worse. I just think, of all of the rides that are similar to this, Haunted Mansion being one, The Little Mermaid being one, I think this is definitely the worst. The queue that Stacy was talking about, that long queue, it's hilarious to me. This ride usually has like a 10-minute wait, and the queue looks like it's ready to gear up for a 2-hour wait. So you're walking through an empty queue. It's pretty funny, honestly. The only reason I really think it'll go in the standby queue is because I do think potentially we could find 5 more that are worse, that I do think it's low on the list. And the only other reason is because it usually has such a short line that maybe it's easy not to skip. And this, for purposes of today's episode, is about easy to skip attractions. So, Katie, for you, I'll put it in the standby queue. But just so you know, it's like first in line to get out.
Okay, I need to give my rebuttal. It's a very cute attraction. Again, it's an attraction that's for little kids. It's for them to enjoy. It's a slow-moving dark ride. And it is so cool with the projected fish inside the aquarium. My kids are always singing, "In the big blue world." Like, we love that ride. We love it, we love it, we love it. I think you're a little bit crazy to think it's one of the worst ones. If we're going to say that Wildlife Express train isn't counted as a form of transportation, but then Stacy says she views it as a form of transportation for the aquarium, I feel like I have some legs to stand on here for why Wildlife Express train is worse. I mean, the queue is long and it is windy and snaking back and forth, but my kids also like the queue. They like to feel like, oh, we're under the boat that Nemo touched. It doesn't feel claustrophobic to me. There are definitely some queues at Disney that I'm like, oh, I am much too near people in like the line beside me, right?
Yeah.
Well, if this line was full, you would be.
Yeah.
It's just not full.
No. I have been in that line whenever it's full, and it's a wide line. I'm talking about like if you are in the teacups where they have switchbacks and you're like, ooh, I'm bumping into people beside me. Or the Three Caballeros is another one where you're bumping into people.
Oh, that is so tight.
You. Yeah, that is not the situation in the Finding Nemo queue.
We're going to put it in the standby queue. Your rebuttals are strong.
Thank you.
I just had to say that it's on my list.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to rebut her rebuttal when she brought up the transportation. Even though I use it as a form of transportation, it is not advertised as just a form of transportation, which is why we need to warn people. It is being presented as a ride.
It's a ride.
It is a ride.
Yeah.
It is a ride.
I also think that Wildlife Express train is.
No.
See,
that's where you're
wrong. This is presented as a ride, and I want to warn people, don't do it as a ride. Now, if you want it as a form of transportation to get to the aquarium, which is what we do, go for it.
All right. Katie,
I'm going to move right along, and this is a hot take on my list, too.
Oh,
I am sure I'm going to get haters for this one.
Oh, boy.
But on my list is Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin in Magic Kingdom. It is very dated at this point. Like, it's a game.
It updated this week.
Listen, no. It's a game that you're riding through, right? It's a shooter game that you're riding through. And even if they updated it and it had all of the latest technology, it's still not a great ride. It reminds me of... I grew up going to Kennywood, and there used to be this dark ride called the Old Mill, and then they rechanged it to be like this Garfield's Mansion thing. Everything's neon and bright, and it looked really weird. I get that same really weird feeling in Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin.
Like it reminds you of being at an arcade in a Pizza Planet? Is it kind of that sort of reminder?
No, it doesn't feel like that. And they're not going for Pizza Planet vibes. They're going for Zurg and this sort of off story for Buzz Lightyear there. I don't love that ride because it feels dated and weird to me. The shooters are not that great, especially whenever you compare it to Toy Story Mania, which is another Toy Story based shooter ride in Disney World. It's literally like night and day. Like Toy Story Mania is amazing and everything that a Toy Story shooter ride should be. And Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin is the nightmare version of it.
I don't disagree or fully agree. I do feel like this is a bottom attraction at Disney World. I don't think it's a bottom 7. If we were doing a This Not That episode, which by the way, we need to do that. And we were saying like Toy Story Mania or Buzz Lightyear, it is Toy Story Mania hands down. They are similar type attractions, just like I was saying with Nemo and Haunted Mansion and all of that. Similar type attractions. Toy Story Mania far surpasses it in every way. I actually agree that those laser guns just felt like they did not work to me. But also for some people, they work so well, you could just easily break the game and you could just max out instantly, which is fun for those people, but I never figured it out. So I agree it's not one of my personal favorites, but I do think that there's a time and place for it. It's not a bottom 7 for me.
Because this is a debatable type of episode, I'm going pretty dramatically on the fact that it's updated. However, it is updated, but it's really not updated that much.
I love you.
The tunnel before you get your photo has been updated. That is got some different graphics in there. So it has been updated in that way, but it's not a big dramatic thing. However, I'm still going to argue this is not a bottom 7 because And I also argue that it's not a ride implying that you're in the Zurg world. I believe it is a video game ride intended to be at Pizza Planet. It is a game that is themed about Buzz Lightyear because he's his own character, right? He has his whole world that's his story and has merch and has video games. And that's what this is. It's a video game at Pizza Planet that you're riding through. You know, that Rock'em Sock'em robot that's at the beginning of the ride is evidence of that, right? Like you're in this toy world. So I think it's super themed and super cool in that way. I do agree that Toy Story Mania is better, but this is a great, fun little ride, and it's not bottom 7 at all. Not even close in my book.
All right. No, Stacy, I think it's your turn then to give us one that you think beats it.
Okay. Becky, I love you. I really love you. And I love it when you're on our episodes. But we're going to go another one that we can argue because Becky's not here. And it is the remarkable Grand Fiesta Tour. It is the boat ride in the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot. I ride it and I feel so bad for the beautiful Mexican culture because this is what's presented for them.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Listen, this is on the list for sure. It is. You're right. Finish your argument.
There's not much more to say. And I'm not anti-boat ride. Like, I think boat rides have their place and I love them and they make a nice, gentle place to relax, take a little break off your feet, and have a nice scenery to go through. And this is not it. The place where they have the Three Caballeros is cute. We need more of that. It needs to be more. And we are under refurbishment right now. Currently, as we're recording, the ride is under refurbishment, but I have heard no news that there are going to be any updates. But hopefully, when it opens back up, we'll have some things that are better. Talk about a laughable ride, a ride that you do ironically. This is the epitome of that. And it's just a bummer. You know, I hate that that's true.
This is not a ride I would ever go out of my way to ride. The only time I get on this ride is when we are eating at San Angel Inn. We are waiting on our food and it's taking a while. I'm like, hey, kids, you want to go ride the Fiesta boat tour?
Yep.
And it's so funny because everybody loves those animatronics of the Three Caballeros at the end. And it's supposed to be this exciting moment. I do not care about those animatronics. They're not anything remarkable or special in any way. They're just, there's Donald and his buddies and they're dressed like the Caballeros, whatever. This is a silly ride. It's definitely bottom 7. This is not innovative. This is not Imagineering at its finest. This offers nothing special. Sorry, this is definitely on the list.
I so badly want to pick up the torch for Becky since she's not here and be like, but wait! But I really don't have anything redeeming to say about it either. I do think that there are better opportunities for what that ride could be. I feel like you see some elements of the newer Coco film in the pyramid itself. And I wish that they would retheme that boat ride to be Miguel going into the afterlife and things like that. That would be a better story, I think.
It's an original attraction, original ride from way back in the day in the 80s when Epcot opened. And it was very much, World Showcase was totally set up to be educational, right? It was an educational experience to go through and learn about all of these places around the world. And Mexico was one of the places where, there's a ride here. And so you could go through, and it was teaching about Mexico through the ride. And I think it was just meant to be very educational. And so they have at least improved it. I think Epcot is realizing we need to be an entertainment venue versus just straight up educational. It's made its changes, but the potential is there. I mean, and we've seen it with Norway. We've seen it with the Frozen, like Norway. Gosh, Maelstrom, that's another ironic, nostalgic ride that our family misses. But obviously Frozen was a much better use of that space for current times. And I feel like this is a space that really needs a nice update. Coco would be fantastic.
I was about to say this might
go there.
be.
It would be perfect.
I was about to say this might be a bad take because there is definitely a crowd of people that doesn't want to Disney-fy everything.
Yep.
And I understand that, but a Coco attraction. Coco, so while Nemo is not in my top, Coco absolutely is. Coco is a top 3 Pixar movie for me. I love everything about it. I would love a Coco attraction in there. If they could retheme this
Yep.
and improve it, and I understand that's a controversial take because some people just don't want to sprinkle Disney theming into everything. I get that and I understand it, but I don't necessarily agree with it, and I would love to see that happen. It isn't though, and so it's on the list. Unless
Yep.
Katie has
Yeah.
some strong reason it shouldn't be.
Nope. Sorry, Becky.
Sorry, we love you.
And to be fair, most Smarties may not know what the origin of Becky calling that ride remarkable really is. You should go back and listen to our super old Epcot draft because that is where she tried to pass this ride off as remarkable. And spoiler alert, that did not go well for her. Okay. We have already taken 4 attractions off my list. I'm going to give another one. Actually, 5. We've taken 5 off of my list. So I only have 2 more to offer up. I am going to go with the Carousel of Progress is one of the worst rides at Disney World. Here is my problem. The only thing it has going for it is the fact that Walt himself had to do with it. That's the end of the conversation. Yep. That's the end of it. Otherwise, it is boring. It is weird.
No.
The story is weird. Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The shower scene alone is bizarre.
There is no shower scene.
There's not a shower scene. I rewatched it yesterday and I was like, she keeps mentioning shower scene. There is a bathtub scene with Uncle Orville.
Okay, sorry.
So
bathtub.
There is a bathtub scene.
Even worse. Even worse.
But that's not okay. And I will pick up this argument for how the weirdness is with the weirdest part of it to me is with the young son is looking through the spectacle glass or something. It's some sort of like a Viewmaster, an old-fashioned Viewmaster. And he's like, and who is this lady doing the hoochie coochie? And Dad is like, put that down before your mom finds out about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not great, Disney. This is not great.
Yeah.
I think it's on the list.
What about when the teenage girl says, Papa, all these people, I'm indecent. And then he says, don't worry, Patricia.
A corset, yeah.
But then doesn't he say, don't worry, Patricia, they're friends. That's weird. That's weird, you guys.
Okay, let me dial this back here a little bit. So if you're not familiar with the Carousel of Progress, it was Walt's vision of a family basically progressing through the century. So we start off in the 20s, is that right? The 1920s?
The turn of the century is how it's worded.
Okay, there you go. So we see Patricia in that scene, and she's in her corset, and she's getting ready. And yes, is that kind of a weird thing to say today? Like, oh, they're friends, don't worry. Yeah, of course that's a weird thing by today's standards. But I feel like it was just a line to showcase what women would have been wearing in that time. It's really to impress upon you how far we have made it as a society from the beginning. That was Walt's vision, was look how far we've come in such little time.
But if that's the vision, then we need to also update it to how far we've continued to come.
Yeah, I will give you that.
If it's a continual carousel of progress, well, then
and they did update it. This is actually where I have a super specific only me frustration. This is only me. The year I choose to dress as the grandmother from the Carousel of Progress for my Halloween costume, weeks before I show up in my outfit, at the end scene, I had this amazing, perfect match of a dress, lacy collar, and brooch. I looked exactly like what Grandma was wearing in this end scene. And then weeks before the party, where I will be attending, they redress Grandma into this khaki colored sweater, and it's supposed to be modernized. And I was like, dadgummit. So my costume is gone forever. It is no longer a part of the ride. But, and I like the ride. I mean, as far as what it is, I respect it. I really do. It does go through, it has a lot of one-liners for some humorous things, kind of poking fun at the different stages of our culture. And I think it's pretty cute. But if we're going to find the bottom 7 of rides that you can skip, this is going to be on the list. Katie, I'm so sorry. I love you too.
Thank you. I love you too. For those of you that don't know, Carousel Progress is my favorite Disney attraction ever, for the historical significance of it, for Walt's touch on it and Walt's vision of it, but also for the optimism and always looking forward to the great big beautiful tomorrow. My deep love is rooted in this nostalgia and this connection to my grandparents. I had never gone to Disney growing up, but my grandparents got to go, and they lived 2 doors down from me. I remember going to my grandparents' house after their trip, and my grandma sitting in the kitchen in her rocking chair. And anytime now that I want to remember what my grandma's voice sounded like, how I remember it, is her singing to me, "There's a great big beautiful tomorrow," in her kitchen, just singing that to me. So in my heart, it will never be a bottom 7 attraction. However, I understand how other people may feel differently.
Yeah, the reason is because your story is beautiful. You've told it on the podcast before, and I think the first time you told it on the pod was the first time I'd ever heard it. And I think I even cried. Like, it was so beautiful and sweet, and I understood your connection to the ride. But nobody else is feeling sensitive and nostalgic about your grandmother when they ride it. So it's not fair to allow that to be a reason to call it good.
I am aware that my family is the only one belting out every word between every scene.
The reason this ride is on the list is because it is skippable for entertainment. It is skippable for being a quality ride. The only reason you would not want to skip it is if you are a Disney history junkie and you just don't want to miss something that's rooted in Disney history, which I get, there's that audience. But for the vast majority, I think it's okay to skip, and it's not going to fulfill you with a bunch of, enjoyment. And for any Smart Moms travel agent listening today, the Hidden Mickey will be enjoyment.
We're not talking about shows, but I would 1,000% skip the Hall of Presidents long before I'd skip Carousel Progress. Okay. End of conversation.
All right. We have 4 rides on our list. We have 3 rides in the standby queue and a couple more on our list to try and figure out what are going to fall to the bottom 7 rides in all of Walt Disney World. We're going to take a quick break. Going to go hear from friends like us in our Friend Like Me segment, other Smart Moms travel agents that are out there in your social media world with great fun content, and a lot of it niche down into things that may really interest you. So take a minute, listen to what they're doing, go follow them, go join their Facebook communities, and then come back to figure out what the bottom 7 rides are in all of Disney World. All right, Smarties, you have got to give our friend Mayela a follow on Instagram at wishingatdisney. She is a stay-at-home mom who loves to homeschool her kids and take them to Disney World. She's an annual pass holder, and she doesn't live in Florida, but still manages to go 2 to 3 times a year. She's fluent in Spanish, a mom of 2, and she's taken her kids as young as 1. She also has a kiddo with a medical condition and is super knowledgeable in military benefits and life as a spouse of a retired Marine. That's Mayela on Instagram, wishingatdisney. If you're going to plan a trip soon, you have got to follow our friend Casey over at Disney with Casey on Instagram. She's been to Disney like every month for the past few years. She knows all the ins and outs of the parks, the resorts, and everything you'd want to know. She's a total Disney expert, and as a travel agent, Casey can book Disney, Universal, cruises, pretty much anywhere you're dreaming of going. Her page is so super cool because she constantly posts updates from all of her own travels. You get to follow along with all of her travels, her fun family moments, and even her super cute Bernese mountain dogs, which I absolutely love. Tag along with all of her adventures while dreaming of yours. That's at Disney with Casey on Instagram. All right, 4 rides have already made it to the bottom 7. They are Mission Space Orange, because barf, Tomorrowland Speedway, the Grand Fiesta Boat Tour in Epcot in the Mexico Pavilion, and sadly for Katie and for Disney nostalgia and history lovers, the Carousel of Progress. It's just too outdated, too weird. We do have 3 rides in the standby queue. They are Journey into the Imagination with Figment, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. Those 3 have not made it to the list, but they are waiting on standby in case we cannot agree on 3 attractions that are worse. And I now put it to you, Katie, to give us one that you think is.
Okay. This one should be really easy, that we can all agree on. I feel really good about this, okay? I would say it is the second worst attraction in Disney World. If we're calling Mission Space Orange the number one worst attraction, this is number two. And that is Astro Orbiter in Magic Kingdom and Tomorrowland. Right now, Astro Orbiter is undergoing like a major renovation. So if you're walking into Tomorrowland, they have walls up. They don't have the big, beautiful space-like thing that's sort of the centerpiece of Tomorrowland. And I do miss it for that reason. Tomorrowland looks really empty without it right now. But riding Astro Orbiter itself is never high on the list. Actually, my family has only ever ridden it once, because it's one of those attractions where you sit with your legs are going to be open as you sit down, and then anyone that's riding with you will be sitting in between your legs. So if you are like a parent of small children, that's not too bad. But if you're like going with your spouse for date night, maybe skip Astro Orbiter. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Some people that might be a very important part of their date night. So let's.
Oh no.
That's what I was thinking. I was actually thinking Disney adults, man. Astro Orbiter.
I'm thinking, like with your little brother, that's where maybe it gets weird, but
I definitely do not want to climb into Astro Orbiter with my brother, Josh. He's one of my best friends. Love him. Do not want to ride Astro Orbiter with him. No, thank you.
This is on my list too, Katie. I totally agree. It's such a terrible way to get onto a ride with the elevator process, and it takes a while. And then I guess there are some people out there who really like heights that would maybe find it very cool. And I will give them the nod that at night it is absolutely beautiful to see from up there. The lighting is amazing in Tomorrowland, and it's pretty, but it's a very small Dumbo-like ride. I don't know if the circumference of this ride is smaller than Dumbo, but it feels very small. It is a very tight circle. I just feel it's such a strange, unfun ride, and it's so high up, it's terrifying. You're just in the wide open space that it doesn't feel safe. It feels like you could just fall right out. I don't know. I don't like this at all. I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible that small children can get on it. It does not have a height restriction, which is where we have mentioned it before on our no height restriction rides episode. And if it's not on the list, then I quit the podcast. I'm just kidding.
It is on the list. It is one of the worst. We've talked on when we ranked the non-height required rides at Magic Kingdom, this fell very low to the bottom, if not the very bottom. And it is just all the things y'all said. It's not great. It's good for visual. And if you're only good for a visual, you're not good enough to be a good ride.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one I don't know how y'all are going to feel about. This is the last one on my list. The rest of mine are either on the list or in the standby queue at this point. I think the Barnstormer is one of the worst rides at Disney World, and let me tell you why. As a rite of passage, your kids need to learn to love a roller coaster. Then it's fun. But I don't think that there is a single other audience that should be riding the Barnstormer. If you don't have a child that is not quite tall enough for Slinky Dog, but big enough for Barnstormer, you should ride this as a introduction to roller coasters. Fun little mild thrill for them. There is not another audience. If your kids are big enough for Mine Train, you're not doing Barnstormer. It is short. It is silly. It is not really it is not good. And when you are that isolated of an experience, that isolated of an audience, then you are one of the worst rides at Disney World.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I haven't been on the Barnstormer too often, even as a parent of little kids. And the reason why is we're a family of 5, and my oldest daughter, who is 8, is my shy rider. And there is no way for our family of 5 where they will put my 8-year-old with my 6-year-old. They won't do it. It has to be one parent with each of the younger kids, and then she would have to be by herself. So even though she wants to ride it, we don't have any way for her to do it without being by herself, and she won't do it. The Barnstormer is really low on my list as well. Although I have to say, Carla, our podcast co-host Carla, took my daughter Tally on the Barnstormer for the first time when Tally was 2. And she got a great video.
But she falls in that category where you can have a cute story for
Yeah,
this
the
ride.
2-year-old.
It's such a small, exactly. It's too isolating. It's too silly. It's not good.
Here's my argument. I don't want it on the list because Disney presents it exactly as what it is. It is not out there in the middle of Magic Kingdom pretending to be anything that it's not. It is in the circus area focused on preschool age. It is in a very childlike area. It knows what its job is to introduce children to roller coasters, and it is exactly what it's supposed to be. Sure, if you are confused and think, oh, this is going to be a thrill ride, then maybe you need to look at the list to find the things to not ride. But it's not, I don't think it even halfway considers itself bigger than it is. And I think it's perfect. It's perfect for what it is. And I don't think it needs to be on this list because it's not the worst ride. It is not the worst ride.
I don't think that Disney doing a good job saying it's a bad ride is a reason to keep it off of the list of a bad ride. It's presented the way it is for a reason. I think you're wrong, Stacy. I think some people might get in line thinking this is a coaster. Like this is another
You can literally stand there at it and watch that it is a baby coaster. It is I don't think there's...
And it's bad because it's a baby coaster, so
no,
it's bad.
that does not make it bad. Things for babies are not bad.
I didn't say things for babies are bad. I just said that it's too like, here's a good example. Little Mermaid ride. Really close to it. Good for babies. Good for bigger kids. Good for everybody to go on and ride. Now that my kids are over the age of 2, we're not going to revisit the Barnstormer. But we will continue to ride the Little Mermaid. Yeah. This is a small window where you want to ride and enjoy this. And maybe you feel this way because you have your grandbabies, and they are very much in Barnstormer era. But pretty soon, because it's such a short window, they're going to be out of Barnstormer era, and I don't think you'll still be going to it.
Seven Dwarfs Mine Train does have a height restriction. It's a low height restriction, but that is a family-friendly coaster as well. So by the time Tally was tall enough to ride the Barnstormer, my youngest, it was maybe a couple months later that she was big enough to ride the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which I feel like is equally as good of a coaster to introduce little kids on. I just do feel like the Barnstormer is too isolating. Sorry, Stace.
I think it's on the list. Sorry, Stacey. I think it's on the list.
It needs to go standby because I would like to argue it is not as bad as some of the things in our standby list. There are going to be things in the standby list that deserve this spot more so than this Barnstormer.
You have any more on your list? You can give us one more.
I do have one more. And I know good and well it's not going to make the list. I am taking this one for all the motion sickness people out there to bring it to their attention that if you have even the slightest bit of motion sickness, particularly for screens.
I know what you're about to say.
You do. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
This is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous take.
Here's the take. It is the Ratatouille ride. And here's the take. There are 3D rides that are being switched over to non-3D rides in other companies, and in Europe they actually took down the 3D for this attraction at, I believe it was in the Disney, where is the other one? Wherever the other one is, Paris?
Disneyland Paris.
I think it was Paris.
Yeah.
So, and they removed the 3D portion of it where you could ride it without having to wear 3D glasses. It did not have that fuzzy look to it. And I would be I'm so pro that. But they actually brought it back and people were disappointed. I think that because it requires 3D glasses and it has the motion, it is just way too triggering for people with screen-related motion sickness. And I have given it a try multiple times thinking, okay, I'm going to do the Dramamine, I'm going to do my motion sickness patches, I'm going to make it, and I still cannot make it. It is an instant can't do. Now, I know a lot of people think it's cute, and I would think it was cute if I could actually watch it, but I can't. There's no way I can enjoy this ride. It is a 100% skip for me. But I know I'm not the majority. I know.
I'm not even going to debate this. This is one of the better non-height required rides in all of Walt Disney World. We've already spent too much time on it. This is so far from the list. I can't even take it.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not a
ridiculous.
huge Ratatouille fan, but my kids love that ride. I feel like it's one of the better ones too.
That ride is
Yeah.
great. That ride is fantastic. Do not even, fair warning if you get motion sickness. Otherwise, it is fantastic. It is a great one. Shame on you, Stacy. Okay, Katie, do you have another?
I do have
attraction?
one, and our faithful Smarties probably won't be surprised that this is on my list, but it's probably another controversial one because it does have a very large fan following, and the line for it is never below 50 minutes to an hour. And you probably all know what I'm about to say.
I do.
Peter Pan's Flight.
Oh, I don't. That is not what I was expecting.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm saying Peter Pan's Flight because, I mean, my family will ride the Barnstormer before we'll go ride Peter Pan's Flight. The draw for Peter Pan's Flight for most people is that it's like a Disney World original attraction from opening day, and that it has this sort of nostalgia factor to it. I do love Peter Pan as a film, but I don't love this attraction because it's too short. It's over too quickly for all the time that you spend in line for it. And I think that the queue for the line itself is better than the ride. Like, there's really fun elements. I would go out of my way. If that was a walkthrough attraction and I could walk through the Darling House, sold. I'll be there every week. But the queue is better than the ride for all of its fun elements, and then the ride is just kind of like meh.
Yeah, I've been very vocal about the fact that I don't think this is great, and I don't necessarily understand why it always has such a long wait, but I think it's far from worse.
Correct.
Very far
I
from
feel like
worse.
it needs to be
I
at least
would
in
go
the
with-
standby queue.
No.
No way. If we were making a list of the most question mark misunderstood rides or something like that, it could be there because I don't understand why it's so favorable, but it's definitely not a bottom 7 attraction.
No,
in
it's
all.
really
Alright.
sweet and great. I love this ride. My only confusion about it is how is the line is so long. Like, I don't understand how it gets so jammed up when it's, it's just like the
Like,
other
I don't
rides.
understand. It's a fun ride, but I don't know what sets it. I can't understand what sets it so far apart from other similar
Yeah.
rides that
Exactly.
that doesn't mean I think it's bad.
Right.
There you go.
It's very sweet. I
Yeah.
love to take children. I mean, I would tell an adult, like, oh no, you definitely need to see it. It's very cute. So yeah, there's no
Yeah.
way this needs to be on this list.
All right, so here's what we have on our for sure list. Mission Space Orange, the Grand Fiesta Boat Tour, the Three Caballeros, Tomorrowland Speedway, the Carousel of Progress, and the Astro Orbiter. That is 3 attractions at Magic Kingdom, 2 attractions at Epcot. None from the other 2 parks, Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, and we don't even have any from those parks on our standby queue list. We are looking to let 2 more attractions in off of standby queue, and those are Journey into the Imagination with Figment, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, or the Barnstormer. I think the clear 2 winners are Figment and Barnstormer.
And by winners, what you mean is losers, right? Because to me, those are the clear 2
Yes.
losers as well.
Hold up.
Right,
I
exactly.
actually am a little confused why nobody brought up alien swirling saucers. I can't believe none of us brought that up. And I had it on my list, but it was like one of my last mentions because I thought surely it was coming up. Do we want to argue that at all?
I don't think we need to argue it, and here's why. It was low on my list, or high on my list as well, whatever way you want to look at it, because I don't think it's a great ride. But when I wrote it, because there are different types of attractions, right? Like we have the Dumbo type
Spinners.
ones that go around in
Yeah.
a circle. And then we have the ones like Haunted Mansion where you sit and go through a story. We have the boats. The spinning rides like the teacups, I think the alien swirling saucers is actually a great version of that type of attraction. The way it sort of slingshots and the way it goes through different spaces. It's not a great ride, but I think for the type of ride it is, it does it well.
Yeah,
That
I
is
was
my
gonna
argument
say-
for Barnstormer. That is my argument for Barnstormer. It is a different type of ride, and it does well for what it is. Can't put Barnstormer on this list.
No, but see, the rebuttal to what you said, Stacey, is that what category does it fall in with what other
As a
rides?
preschool
It goes
ride. It is the most awesome, exciting preschool ride you could ever have.
Too isolating. It's
Not
too
for
isolating. You
preschoolers.
only ride it with a 2-year-old.
It's a preschool ride.
It's too isolating.
No,
Terrible.
I just can't. No, I can't get behind that. I do want to say that Alien Swirling Saucers was also on my sort of like dishonorable mention list, if you want to call it that. I do think it's a great ride. It reminds me a lot of the Whip from Kennywood Back Home, and I love the Whip. So I do like it, but I hate standing in line for it. I wish that the ride itself was longer, but I don't feel like it's a bottom 7 attraction. I
think it's a bottom 10. I think it's like a bottom 10.
I do think that we will catch some flack from people if we don't mention a ride that I know all of us love, but there is some hate for it that exists.
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say the People Mover.
That's not what I was going to say.
Oh, I love the People
so
Mover.
fun.
Don't even bring that up in this list. Don't even.
I love it. Yeah.
Laughing.
Yeah. No, I'm not
laughing so hard. No, the ride I was thinking of is It's a Small World, because that ride gets a lot of hate.
No.
I don't hate it.
Let me tell you.
I don't hate it, but there are people that hate it.
There are people. I live with one,
No.
and when we were having this discussion last night, and I told him we were recording this morning, he brought that up, and we literally argued. Like it was almost a fight. And he said it before, like this was not new. So he is one of those, and it makes me so angry. I'm like, no, it's a great ride. Yeah. You get out of here.
That's a great ride. Don't even put that near the list.
Okay, so all right, what is the one thing we know for sure?
All right, Journey into the Imagination with Figment, we know for sure. It's going on the list. Don't even try to fight that again.
Going on the list.
So that gives us 6. That means we have one more space. And I think you would find more of an audience repeating Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin and The Seas with Nemo and Friends than you would the Barnstormer.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think if we're looking at bottom rides, more skippable, and more people are going to ride the other 2 than this one. And Stacy, if it makes you feel better, we can make it number 7.
I just think Nemo is worse. I just think Nemo is worse.
No way Nemo's worse. Not by a mile. Everybody can ride Nemo.
At least we have this episode as my stance. People will know how I feel.
That's right. That's right, Stacy. Nobody will ever mistake the fact that you love the Barnstormer. And next time we all go together, I will support you from afar while you ride it. And I will enjoy watching
If we come out with like podcast merch, your thing gets to be Stacy loves the Barnstormer.
You push it too far.
No, we all get one attraction on our shirt. Becky gets the Grand Fiesta Boat Tour. Katie gets the Carousel of Progress. You get the Barnstormer. I guess I would have to take Small World because I've been very vocal about how I like it and it's a hated ride.
You're just fixing it so that you get the cute stuff. You know that's cute.
I don't know what Carla what rides she likes that most people hate. She doesn't like a whole lot.
Carla just doesn't like stuff.
Yeah. Maybe like the Navi River Journey. Didn't she on record?
And I really thought that was going to be mentioned on this list as well.
I'm on the record saying I don't think that one is great, even recently in our over-under episode, but I don't think it's a bottom 7.
I agree.
So here it is. The official bottom 7. We're not saying there aren't other worthy skippable attractions, but for the reasons we said today, maybe it's a terrible queue, maybe it's terrible motion sickness, maybe it's bad Imagineering, maybe it's too isolating of an experience, whatever it is, outdated. We talked about it. And for those reasons, one or all of them, the following rides are the bottom 7 worst rides in all of Walt Disney World. They are Mission Space Orange, the Grand Fiesta Boat Tour, the Three Caballeros, the Tomorrowland Speedway. By the way, Mission Space Orange, Epcot, Grand Fiesta, Epcot, Tomorrowland Speedway, Magic Kingdom, Carousel of Progress in Magic Kingdom, Astro Orbiter in Magic Kingdom, Journey into the Imagination with Figment in Epcot, and the Barnstormer, sorry, Stace, in Magic Kingdom. I think we did a good job. I stand by all of these selections. I don't think anyone's going to be missing anything if they don't ride these 7
I stand by
attractions.
6, but I'll go with you.
What, because you want Tomorrowland Speedway on there?
Carousel of Progress!
Oh, right. It does.
And I mean, should we even bring up, there's another that I can't believe we haven't mentioned, but I don't want on the list.
What?
I really am so proud of us for not bringing Living with the Land
No,
into
that
this
ride
story.
is awesome. That ride
It's
is great.
fantastic. I agree. I just feel like people think they can skip it.
When I was talking to Zan last night about the ride, she goes, "You all better not bring up Living with the Land." And I was actually, she said,
I
she
agree.
actually said, "Y'all better not bring up the garden ride."
So good. We have.
And I said, "We
I
won't."
know.
we
I'm
won't.
proud of us.
I was like, "We won't."
It's
That's
great.
Great.
Hope that.
Yeah.
I hope that's
Okay.
a message for
Yeah.
our listeners as well. Don't skip it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that's going to do it for us on another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. We hope we made your experience better with your upcoming Disney World trip by letting you know, hey, it's okay to skip some rides, especially these 7. And until next time, we'll see you real soon. You guys, I've got to go see an ear, nose, and throat specialist. I cannot talk or breathe out of my nose, ever. I gotta go.
Yep, you probably should.
I can't right now because life is too busy, but at some point, I'm gonna prioritize that.
It's like me with trying to go get glasses. I'm sure I need.
It's ridiculous.